What's up guys, Alive Belang here. I hope everyone's doing well. I posted the Eula Ascension and Talent Prep Guide last time, and I later realized that I left some things out that should have been in that video, that I'll be adding in this video. But first off, I just want to say thank you. The last video got a lot of positive feedback, as well as the Reddit post elaborating more on the video. I'll be posting more on the Eula Mains Reddit whenever a Eula video drops, as well as the Genshin Reddit when I upload anything. So now, without further ado, timestamps will be in the description. Let's get started. So today we're going to go over all of Eula's talents, constellations, and figure out which weapons and artifacts are best suited for her kit, as well as team comps that we can run with her. First, I'm going to go over the things I left out in the previous video. So for leveling up Eula level 1 through 90, you'll be needing 414 Hero Wit, 13 Adventurers Experience, 22 Wanderer's Advice, and 1,672,000 Mora. So with her basic level up plus Ascension and talents, in total you'll be needing 7,049,500 Mora. This is an insane amount, and if you plan on maxing her out day one, this isn't including Song of Broken Pines by the way, which we'll get to later, this can look very overwhelming. Again, like I said in the last video, try to make a plan on what days you grind out Mora and Hero Wit until her release. Also, the new event that's out right now actually gives you a lot of Mora and a lot of books, so buy those when you can, as well as buy the Battle Pass, because Battle Pass also gives you a lot of books and a lot of Mora. Now with that out of the way, I just want to say that right off the bat, Eula is a 5-star CRYO Claymore user who's going to shine a lot with her high physical damage. You're going to want to build her around her physical damage and not her CRYO. So I don't suggest running freeze comps with her, but we'll go over all that more later after her stats and talents and ascensions, all that. So here on screen, I went ahead and made a comparison chart so we can see all the Claymore users' stats together and be able to compare them easier. So here are all the Claymore users' base HP. We can see that Eula doesn't have the best HP out of the Claymore users starting at level 1. That title goes to Beto, who has 1,094 base HP, but Eula comes in second with 1,030. By level 80 and up, Eula ends up beating Beto and has the best base HP out of all of them at 13,226 base HP at level 90, 176 more HP than Beto at the same level. Next, let's talk about base attack. Starting at level 1, Eula has more base attack than Diluc by 1 point with 27, and by level 90, she beats him by 7 more points with 342. With this into account, she also has pretty fast attack speed, rivaling Razor when he uses his Lightning Fang ability, so her DPS output is going to be a whole lot, not including her crit rate and crit damage, which we'll see in a bit. Even though her base attack is really high, Xiao is still the game's highest base attack character by 7 points above Eula's 342 base attack. Now for defense, we can see that her base defense compared to the others isn't the best, but not the worst. By level 90, it gets a little better and she ends up having the same base defense as Razor, but then again, not the best defense. This, however, gets better with the Grimheart stack buff from her Icetide Vortex elemental skill, which we'll see more and talk more about this later in her talents. And for our final stat, I just wanted to compare Eula's and Diluc's Ascension stat, which for Eula's is crit damage percent and crit rate, and Diluc's is crit rate percentage and crit damage. I think Eula having damage percentage is good, but it'd be better if it was like Diluc's and she had crit rate percentage so that she can land more to those crits. Still, her high crit rate and high physical damage capabilities are going to be cracked. Just try to build up her crit rate with artifacts and the weapons, which we'll get into later. With basic stats out of the way, here is Eula's first talent, Bonnie's Blade Work, which is her basic attack. She swings her sword quite precise and eloquently 5 times, and her charge attack looks a lot like Diluc's and Beto's, where she just swings out in front of her, instead of spinning like a cogwheel like Noelle, Chongyun, Razor, and Xinyan. Here are the stats for each hit. Diluc actually has higher stats in these, but only hits 4 times and not 5. Eula actually has a faster attack speed like I mentioned earlier, so she'll be able to attack more frequently, outputting more physical damage consistently, which ultimately just means more damage. Her next talent is her elemental skill, Icetide Vortex. This ability can be pressed or held down similar to Bennett's elemental skill. Pressing the ability slashes swiftly, causing cryo damage, and Eula gains a stack of Grimheart, which can be stacked up to 2 times, and stacks are gained once every 0.3 seconds. The cooldown when pressing this ability is 4 seconds. Holding down the ability, however, costs 10 seconds on cooldown, and holding the ability releases stacks of Grimheart that she builds up, and she lashes forward, dealing AoE cryo damage to enemies in front of her. If the Grimheart is consumed, surrounding enemies will have their physical resistance and cryo resistance decreased. Also, each consumed stack of Grimheart will be converted into an ice world that deals cryo damage to nearby enemies. So this Grimheart that I keep bringing up increases Eula's resistance to interruptions, which are these electro stuns and getting bonked by things like rocks and people, and it also buffs her defense. Her defense bonus per stack goes up by 30%, and the effect itself lasts 18 seconds. Here are all the stats if you wanted to pause and look at it, because it's a lot of percentages. And lastly is her ultimate, Glacial Illumination. This ultimate releases cryo damage to nearby enemies and creates a Lightfall Sword that follows her around for 7 seconds. This is her first elemental burst. Her Lightfall Sword increases Eula's resistance to interruption. When Eula's normal attack, elemental skill, and elemental burst damage deal damage to enemies, it will charge the Lightfall Sword 1 energy stack every 0.1 second. Once its duration ends, the Lightfall Sword will explode, dealing physical damage to nearby enemies. So her ultimate itself will have the elemental burst in the beginning and then a physical damage burst at the end. If she leaves the field, the sword will explode immediately. The cooldown on her ult is 20 seconds and the cost is 80 energy, which is a lot. It's the same as Beto's energy cost for her ultimate. Hence why a lot of people are going to be running an ult battery cryo character in their comps, so it can charge faster. The maximum stacks for Lightfall Sword's energy is 30, and her physical numbers are percentage based. Feel free to pause again and look at the stats in depth. Her passive talents are quite nice, especially her Aristocratic Introspection, giving the user 10% chance to receive double the product of converted talent books, and with Eula requiring 114 Philosophies of Resistance books for her full talent level up, this is going to come in handy. So I suggest saving all your books. Do not convert anything in the Alchemist crafting yet. Wait to actually pull Eula, and once you actually pull Eula, you can start converting and crafting your books to get hopefully double the product. Her Rolling Rhyme passive is an extension to her elemental skill Icetide Vortex, where if 2 stacks of Grimheart are consumed during the holding form of her ability, then the shattered Lightfall Sword will explode and deal 50% of the basic physical damage by the Lightfall Sword at the end of her ult. So if it doesn't kill him the first time with the burst, then the second time should finish them off. Eula's last passive is called Wellspring of Warlust, and it resets the cooldown of Icetide Vortex and gains Eula a stack of Grimheart. Now that her stats and talents are out of the way, let's talk about her constellations for all you lucky people or whales who end up getting her constellations. So for C1 Eula, Tidal Illusion, every time a stack of Grimheart is consumed, Eula's physical damage is increased by 30% for 6 seconds, and each stack consumed will increase the duration of this effect by 6 seconds onto the maximum of 18 seconds. C2 Eula, Lady of Seafoam, decreases the cooldown of Icetide Vortex's holding mode, which is a 10-second cooldown, to the same cooldown time as the pressing mode, which makes both of her pressing and holding cooldowns 4 seconds, which is very nice. Constellation 3, Lauren's Pedigree, just levels Glacial Illumination, which is her ult, by 3, letting you level up the talent to 15. C4, the Obstinacy of One's Inferiors, makes the Lightfall Sword deal 25% increased damage against opponents less than 50 HP. This is honestly pretty good. C5 Eula, Chivalric Quality, is just like C3, and it levels up her Icetide Vortex elemental skill by 3 more, making the max level for her Icetide Vortex level 15. And lastly, C6 Noble Obligation makes a Lightfall Sword created by her ult, Glacial Illumination, start with 5 stacks of energy. Normal elemental skill and elemental burst have 50% chance to grant a Lightfall Sword and an additional energy. So when you're pulling for these, or if you are thinking of pulling for these, I would go for C1 and C2, because I think those are pretty good. And then if you really want to wail and try to hit for that C6, then go ahead. But me personally, I think I might just try to aim for C2. Now, with all of that information, let's talk builds and weapons that would be best suited for Eula. So for team comps, we're going to want to run a physical damage comp to bring out her full potential. I suggest running Electro User for the Super Conduct buff, which reduces the enemy's physical res by 50%, and a Cryo Battery character for her ult, which I stated earlier in the video. Also, having double Cryo makes it so that your party is affected by Electro 40% less time, and increases crit rate against enemies who are frozen or affected by Cryo by 15%. Agent Eon from the Eula Mains Discord made a spreadsheet for team comps, and here I just wanted to bring them up since I do agree with their sheet, and the link will be in the description as well if you want to read the spreadsheet fully. So here are some of the best options to fill your team's Electro slot from best to worst, starting with Fischl, Beto, Lisa, Razor, and Kuching. Lisa, Razor, and Kuching can be really interchangeable however you want to rank them. For the Cryo battery, from best to worst, you can use Diona with a high refined sacrificial bow for that good elemental recharge, C2 Ganyu if you have a C2 Ganyu, Diona without the refined bow, Rosaria, Kaya, and then lastly Ganyu. Agent Eon also noted that you can run Matula, which is a Eula melt comp. This comp requires Eula, Chongyun, Bennett, and Xiangling. I think Bennett and Xiangling can be interchangeable, and you can switch them out with any other Pyro character, but Chongyun is required. I personally feel that her physical comp, though, with the Electro and Cryo battery are going to be the best. When it comes to artifacts, the main set that most people are going to run is a 4-piece Pale Flame and either a Bloodstained Chivalry or Gladiator's Finale piece as their 5th, most likely the Goblet. The other option is 2-piece Bloodstain and 2-piece Pale Flame. Both sets give a 50% buff to physical damage, but the 4-piece Pale Flame set gives you a bonus 9% attack increase on top of the 50% physical damage buff. And if 2 of these stacks are used, then the effect is increased by 100%. The thing is, however, it's going to be a lot harder to maintain the effect due to the 2 stacks and the timing of when you're supposed to use your elemental burst attack. My friend Braxophone made a video further explaining the 4-piece Pale Flame set, and even goes and tests the set on every character to see how it works. I'll link his video in the description below if you want to go check that out after. If you choose to run Matula, then you can run a 2-piece Blizzard and 2-piece Gladiators, but I personally feel, like I said earlier, 4-piece Pale Flame will be the best. Lastly, we'll finish up by discussing her best weapons. Now, off the bat, her best weapon by far will be the brand new Song of Broken Pines, which will be the rate-up weapon coming out alongside the Eula banner. Song of Broken Pines has the best base attack out of all the Claymore weapons with a 49 versus the Skyward Pride's 48, and its substat will be physical damage, which heavily benefits Eula. Song of Broken Pines will have an increased attack by 16%, and when the normal or charge attack hits an enemy, the character gains a Sigil of Whispers. This effect can be triggered once every 0.3 seconds, and when you have 4 Sigils of Whispers, all will be consumed, and all party members will have Millennial Movement effect for 12 seconds. This effect increases normal attack speed by 12% and increases attack by 20%. Once the effect is up, you won't be able to gain Sigils for 20 seconds. And on screen is the sword's base attacks, from level 1 through 90. Now for refinement, level 2 increases the attack from 16% to 20% when a normal or charge attack hits an enemy, and the millennial movement effect increases normal attack speed from 12 to 15% and increases attack from 20% to 25%. Now for refinement 3 to 5, it buffs percentages, so the increase in attack for refinement 3 goes from 20% to 24%, the attack speed from 15 to 18%, and the increased attack by 25 to 30%. Refinement 4 increases 24% to 28%, the attack speed 18% to 21%, the increased attack from 30% to 35%. Lastly, Refinement 5 increases the 28 to a 32%, 21 to a 24%, and the 35 to a 40%. If and when you do end up getting Song of Broken Pines, you'll be needing 5 tile Decarbon's Tower, 14 debris of Decarbon's City, 14 fragments of Decarbon's Epic, 6 scattered piece of Decarbon's Dream, and 225,000 Mora. You can get Decarbon's items from the Domain of Forgery, the Cecilia Garden one, on Mondays, Thursdays, and Sundays. So add that to your list of things to grind, if you do plan on getting the sword. If you aren't getting Song of Broken Pines, then here are some alternatives. For 5 stars, you can use Wolf's Gravestone, Skyward Pride, or the Unforged. The Unforged being the worst out of these since it requires a shield to fully use it and get the full effect out of it. I guess it would work on Beto's shield in physical comp, but I would try to use the others first. 4-star weapons that you can use from best to worst, in my opinion, are Snow Tomb Star Silver, which has a substat of physical damage and a cryo buff, Serpent Spine, which has a substat of crit rate percentage, Black Cliff Slasher, which has a substat of crit damage, Prototype Archaic, which has a substat of attack percentage, Royal Greatsword, which has a substat of attack percentage, Sacrificial Greatsword, which has a substat of elemental recharge percentage, and Favonius Greatsword, which has a substat of elemental recharge percentage as well. Depending on what comp you have, you can also use Lithic Blade, which has a attack percentage buff, and it gets buffed by how many Liyue characters you have in your party. I'm not going to be using this because I know that most of the characters in my party are going to be Mondstadt characters, so I wouldn't use this weapon. The other swords, White Blind, Rain Slasher, and the Bell, are, in my opinion, the worst out of these 4-star options, so try to avoid using these and try to go for the other ones that I mentioned. In conclusion, I'm gonna try to pull for Song of Broken Pines, and if I'm really lucky, I'm gonna try to aim for C1 or C2 Eula. We'll see how my wallet feels after, and if Mihoyo wants to be nice to me. My team comp is probably going to be a bit different than the usual physical damage comp that I mentioned, but I'll make a guide video when she drops. I'll probably go over team comps and the correct artifacts that you're supposed to be using for Eula herself, and see what works and what doesn't. That's all from me. I hope this video is helpful. I tried to make it as condensed as possible so I don't waste anyone's time. If I left anything out, feel free to comment down below or reply on Reddit. I usually answer quite fast messages, since I have nothing else better to do. And yeah, with that, please like and subscribe if you like the content. I have so much planned in the future, and I hope to see everyone there when I do make more content. Also, go follow my Twitch, where I stream multiple days a week for on average about 5 hours per stream, which will be linked down with my socials below, as well as my Twitter, where I usually post updates. My next Eula video will be after she actually comes out, and I'll try to upload something else next week. Thank you everyone for your time. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys later.